Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, or whatever ungodly hour you find yourself listening. We are the Bards Against Humanity, here to strum your lute and absolutely wreck your earholes. So prepare for a podcast that's going to hit harder than a nat one in bed, because we're coming in your ears.
That's right. Today it is myself, Leo, here, of course. What? And of course, we heard our lovely intro from our own Dan.
Yeah, I'm never going anywhere. I'm always here.
Yeah. Hey, you did the intro real well, though. Proud of you.
Yeah, I've learned from my previous fuck-ups. I'm now uber conscious of it.
And yet still was brave enough to take a sip of coffee just as I asked you a question.
Yeah, even though we talked about this just before we started recording, I need to move my microphone away if I ever want to take a sip of coffee, because guess what? It just goes right through the mic.
Oh, it was a super big gulp. Outside of recording, this time in recording, it was only a little sneaky slurp.
In the back of my mind,
anyway,
I was probably a little bit conscious of how loud that could come out.
Anyway,
maybe.
Today we are going through the last subclass of the sorcerer, that one being Wild Magic. Dan, are you psyched?
I am psyched. And just for those folks that maybe have missed a couple episodes and missed the previous one, we are trying something new by going through one subclass per episode rather than two. Might give us a little bit more time for the subclasses, makes for shorter episodes, we hope, but we're not good at keeping on track. So we'll see how this goes.
And we hope and we hope that, you know, our viewers will enjoy the shorter videos. If you do, please do let us know in the comment section belole. Cheers, boss. Didn't know how to finish my sentence.
Cheers, boss. Couldn't go more Washford if you tried.
I just didn't know how to finish the sentence. I started it and I don't know.
Cheers, boss.
No strain, boss. No strain.
Yeah.
So the whole deal with wild magic is that your innate magic stems from the forces of chaos that underline the order of creation. You or an ancestor might have endured exposure to raw magic. Unprotected magic, if you ask me.
And that's why people, they tell wizards and sorcerers and magic users alike to keep it in your pants.
You gotta wrap it up before you tap it up. That's right, you gotta wrap your presents before you tap them on the shoulder to hand it to them.
Exactly. That's why they always keep the D&D version of a condom in their hidden zipper pocket.
That's why I call my pants, instead of the bag of holding, the bag of packing, if you know what I mean.
Yet he still needs to use the spell enlarge reduce to semen anyway.
Oh. I'm just going to start that whole sentence again for the Wild Magic Sorcerer. I'm just going to start it all over again. You or an ancestor might have endured exposure to raw magic, perhaps through a planar portal leading to limbo or the elemental planes. Perhaps you were blessed by a fey being or being marked by a demon, or your magic could be a fluke with no apparent cause. Whatever its source, this magic churns within you, waiting for any outlet.
I have two things I would like to lead on. First and foremost, I love how you actually left a blank like 3-second silence after you said raw magic, expecting me to make some sort of comment. That's quite funny. Secondly, it's made me remember I never introduced the Draconic Soul Sorcerer because I got too excited.
Yep, no, I kind of clocked it. We are very poor for introducing what the subclass's vibe is supposed to be, just that we rate its vibe. And technically, by the way, for the raw magic, I gave that for 3 seconds for both you and our listeners to have a small giggle to themselves about, and then continued on. Don't worry. I'm thinking of not only you, Dan, but also you, the viewer.
So I'm not special, is what you're telling me.
You podium.
The fact that you had to think about that and start that sentence twice kind of upsets me a little bit. But at least I get a bronze medal at the very least.
Yeah. Hey, I only mentioned 2 people. You put yourself in 3rd for no reason.
I'm not a very smart individual, Leo.
No. Okay.
You have to agree so fast. Whoa.
Well,
just 3 no's so quickly. Just no.
No. But enough about that. Little butterfly in the corner.
Yep. We've all played Until
What
Dawn.
game is that? Yeah, it's Until Dawn, isn't it? I'm trying to think. I feel like it was also in... Oh, what's it called? Beyond Two Souls? No. What's the one where you can travel... Can you travel back in time? Yeah, you can travel back in time. And... Hurricane hit. Oh, why I oughta.
Hold it. Yeah.
What's it called?
Give me a fucking
What's
second.
it called? By describing the game, I've now hit a weird article about Life is Strange.
I had to look at my Steam library because I'm like, I know I have this.
No, Dan. It's even. I've platinumed this game. I've platinumed it. It's even worse. I've spent so much time getting every collectible in this game, and I could not remember it.
Yeah. Do you want to know the reason why we keep forgetting all of these other random tidbits while we're recording?
Yeah.
Because we're just mentally sending out a message to our viewer to like and subscribe on all of our platforms.
That's it. That's why I said no 3 times instead of just the once.
Sure. Put away the shovel, Leo. The hole's getting bigger.
Though I must say, the Life is Strange franchise, because I've platinumed all of them, which is so horrific. Oh my days. They're not difficult games. But, God. Actually, in the True Colors one, this is relevant. Fuck, we can bring it back. Part of the game, they do like a town version of D&D. It's quite fun, actually. Yeah. So it's on the library for PlayStation Network. So if you have an account, give it a lash, and you can play D&D through a game instead of just playing it with other people. But
play a game within a game.
Yeah, I quite like those moments when you're playing a game within a game. Anyway, what happens to you at level 3, Dan?
Same as usual, you get all your subclass defining features now at level 3 rather than choosing them earlier for some classes. But the main hook for a Wild Magic Sorcerer is their bread and butter feature, Wild Magic Surge. So beforehand, it was once per turn. It used to be that the DM can prompt you to roll a d20 whenever you cast a first level or higher sorcerer spell. If you roll a 1, you roll on the given wild magic table to create a magical effect. And that can be any one of, I believe, what used to be 50 options. It was a D100 table. And there was so many different things in this, from beneficial to just straight up hindering you in your party. It was a chaotic subclass to play, to say the least. But if the effect that came from the Wild Magic table was a spell, it cannot be affected by our meta magic. And if it required concentration, it doesn't require it for this specific case, as long as it came from the Wild Magic table and the spell lasts for the full duration. But what it has been changed to is once per turn, you can roll a d20 immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell, so it's no longer specified in the rules that it has to be prompted by a DM. And if you roll a 20 instead on the d20, you roll on the Wild Magic table to create a magical effect. And if the same given again, then if it's a spell, it cannot be affected by meta magic. The only thing I'm sad about is it does not specify that it no longer requires concentration, because I think I need to have a quick look through the table to confirm whether or not they have concentration spells in there. I'm pretty sure they are, but probably a lot less than what was originally given.
I quite like this as a change. While you look for a concentrated spell on that table, I quite like it. I like the fact that it is a natural 20 instead of a natural 1, if that makes sense. Like, you are the Wild Magic Sorcerer, you want your Wild Magic to come off, even though it can be detrimental, but that's your gimmick, that's your thing. So for it to be a natural, to be a good thing instead of a bad thing, I quite like. And I also like the fact that you roll it yourself, because a lot of the DMs will hide the roll, and you, especially what must have felt like in 2014, you would have felt like that your DM was simply saying, "Oh, you rolled a D1," and it must feel a bit cheap, especially if you get something bad. If you get something good, you're like, "Who cares?"
I will jump in here. The old Wild Magic, it was never the DM that made the roll. The DM just prompted you to make the roll, and then if it triggered Wild Magic, you then rolled to see what the result would be.
That does change my opinion on it.
The only thing that could come from that then is DMs that may only occasionally prompt you to make a roll on the Wild Magic table because they fear the one option that would cast Fireball centered on yourself, and imagine that happening at level 1 and basically being a TPK. It's a change for the better. They have given a lot more beneficial effects to the Wild Magic table. They've shortened it down to now 25 options rather than 50. They've made a lot more, as I said, made a lot more beneficial ones, so that Wild Magic doesn't feel like you're just going to completely wipe the party out, or that you're going to hinder them in some way. Most, if not all, are good. There's very little that could be construed as terrible.
Like, there's some really good ones here where you have resistance to all damage for a minute. You can take an extra action this turn. It's for the next minute, all your spells with a casting time of an action have a casting time of a bonus action. I actually don't see many just bad ones here. If I'm being honest,
one that I noticed there when I was scrolling through before is you have the frighten condition for this turn, and the DM decides the source of fear. You can have a random creature within 60 feet of you have the poison condition for 1d4 hours. That could end up being one of your party members. There's a load more things that help you than they do hurt you. Like, for example, on a roll of a 9 to 12 on the D100 will give you the regeneration feature. For the next minute, you regain 5 hit points at the start of each of your turns. So you can't really fall unless someone kills you outright. You can effectively, basically, be unkillable for a minute, which is nice.
Now there was some silly ones regarding the Wild Magic where, like, you were immune to being intoxicated to alcohol for the next 5d6 days. Your hair falls out but grows back within 24 hours. But you're right, you have the Fireball that's centered on yourself. You can cast Confusion centered on yourself. I don't know exactly how Confusion would work in that scenario.
I think it's
Does that mean everyone else?
I think it's everyone that's in the radius. So each creature in the 10-foot radius centered on a point you control, or you choose. And because the Wild Magic table dictated that it is centered on you, you are now one of the affected creatures.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more detrimentals, and illusionary butterflies and flower petals flutter in the air within 10 feet of you for the next 10 minutes. I think it's given the Wild Magic Surge table a bit more actionable ideas, if that makes sense. Like, they'll all come into play to a degree. Now, granted, there are some that are, like a creature that's friendly towards you appears in a random unoccupied space within 16 feet in front of you. That the creature's under the DM scroll and disappears at 1 minute later. One of them is a unicorn. So some of them are still silly, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are super handy.
One that I actually missed, which kind of brings me back to my whole, I'm kind of sad they took out the if it requires concentration, it doesn't. I actually missed the roll of 50 to 60. The first line of that spell, or that magical effect, is you cast a random spell. If the spell normally requires concentration, it doesn't in this case, and the spell lasts for the full duration. And you roll a 1d10 to determine which of the 10 spells you can potentially cast. Say so being like Confusion, Fireball, Fog Cloud, Fly, Grease, Levitate, Magic Missile, Mirror Image, Polymorph, and See Invisibility. And this one, because it does also potentially grant you a cast of Fireball, it doesn't specify where that Fireball has to be cast, so you can throw it wherever the fuck you want.
Which is super handy, though Polymorph can really mess you up, because if you fail the saving throw, you yourself turn into a goat.
Yeah.
But I like it. This is fine. You know what I mean? That's so, you've got to roll what? A D100 and then a D10, and then you have to fail the saving throw. Like, that's not punishing you for choosing such a chaotic subclass.
Yeah, beforehand it felt very punishing to roll on the Wild Magic table because it was such a gamble on whether or not it would be hurtful, it would be like
Helpful, it would be
helpful, anything. Beforehand, I did really feel like the only way to like properly get use out of your Wild Magic, if your DM wasn't prompting you to roll, would be to somehow get your hands on an item called the Feywild Shard. So like it's like a tiny little piece of crystal that's like condensed energy from the Feywild. So you can attune to it. You could attune to it as an action, and when you use a meta magic option on a spell while you're holding or wearing this shard, you can roll on the Wild Magic table. And if the result is a spell, again, it's too wild to be affected by your meta magic, and it normally requires concentration. It doesn't. It was...
So I'm glad it's encouraging people to actually use it. I think the Nat 1 is also back in 2014 makes it feel like it's a punishing subclass, while the Nat 20, I don't know, subconsciously it's like, yes, I want to get to that Wild Magic that Wild Magic Surge table.
Yeah.
So, and then at level 3, that you have Tides of Chaos. So back in 2014, starting at first level, you can manipulate the forces of chance and chaos to gain advantage on one attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Once you do so, you must finish a long rest before you can use this feature again. Anytime before you regain this feature, the DM can have you roll on the Magic Surge table immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell of 1 level or higher. That you then regain the use of this feature. 2024 is very similar, but slightly differently, with obviously a very key difference. So once again, you can give yourself advantage on a D20 test before you roll the D20. Now, I must ask, is an attack roll a D20 test?
Anything that involves a D20 roll is a D20 test. So ability check, a saving throw, an attack roll, anything.
I just wanted to check that because it was like D20 test. Does that remove attack rolls? Anyway,
yeah, D20 test is just their way of shortening down whenever you roll an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. It's just their way of basically condensing it down into.
Yeah, fair. Once you do so, you must cast a sorcerer spell with a spell slot or finish a long rest before you can use this feature again. If you do cast a sorcerer spell with a spell slot before you finish a long rest, you automatically roll on the Wild Magic Surge table. Once again, kind of more encouraging for people to do it. It's not up to the DM if you want to roll. He can have you roll, which means he cannot, he can decide not that you don't have to roll. On this one, you have to roll for your spell after you decided to cast it, but before the resolution is how I've pictured that in my head.
Which is really, really good because, again, beforehand it was DM dependent, but I can imagine there are a lot of DMs out there that would have also been like, it's your core class feature, go and roll whenever it would applicably make you roll. But because the benefits seriously outweigh the negatives with the new Wild Magic Surge table, being able to give yourself advantage constantly in the throes of combat or whatever, and being able to constantly roll on that Wild Magic Surge table every time you cast a spell, to be able to gain some benefits, to be able to maybe get some HP back, to be able to turn the tide of battle in your favor. Just being able to, with the new wording of how this goes, and I think it was relatively the same beforehand, because whenever you cast that spell and the DM made you roll on the Wild Magic table, you instantly gain that feature back.
Yes. So you can keep doing this, which I love.
Doing this. And because the Wild Magic table is so beneficial, there's next to no downside on being able to roll it. It just may take up a little bit more time on your turn, say. The only real downside of it is potentially time, trying to figure out how the D20 the D100 roll is going to go. Other than that, really good Tides of Chaos. Has not changed that much other than wording and basically putting all the power in the player versus basically the DM deciding when you get to use your class.
Yeah, and I actually think because the table's smaller, and because like this subclass, even at level 3, is really encouraging you to use this table. This is nearly your currency, it's your trade. I think people will start to remember generally what the crack is, and it won't be such a, oh, now you've got to go on the Wild Magic Surge. Oh, damn it, let me roll. All right, let's have a look. There's not going to be that, I don't think. Like, there's going to be people, they're going to have it open next to them instead of having to look for it, if that makes sense. So yes, there's going to be a time thing. Of course, you're rolling a D100, but, and like, you could guess like one of the spells one, and you'll have to cast Fireball as well as whatever spell you were casting in the first place. But other than that, I actually think it's great. It's great. So Dan, does this trend continue? What happens at level 6?
Yeah, it does. So at level 6, in both versions, you started off with a feature called Bend Luck. So you have the ability to twist the fate using your wild magic. So when another creature makes an attack roll, an ability check, or saving throw, you can use your reaction and spend 2 sorcery points to roll a d4 and apply the rolled result as a bonus or penalty, your choice, to that creature's roll. You can do so after the creature rolls, but before any effects of the roll occur. And that was what it used to be. And now it has gone to the same named feature, Bend Luck. You have the ability to twist fate using your wild magic. Immediately after another creature you see rolls a d20 for a d20 test, again, consolidating it down a little, you can take a reaction and now spend only 1 sorcery point to roll a d4 and apply as a bonus or a penalty, your choice, to the d20 roll. And it doesn't specify that you have to see the result of the roll or any effects occur before you use this. So it seems like you can just use your reaction, spend a sorcery point, and either give them a bonus d4 or a minus d4.
Yeah, I like this. And one big thing that I do like about it, which is pretty rare that we're seeing in these subclasses, is being able to use your reaction. It's not seen very often, and I like it. It's a part of D&D that isn't really utilized as much as I think as it should be. So being able to use your reaction, I'm loving it. Yeah, and also the fact that it's 1 less sorcery point. Happy days.
Sorcery points would be a lot of an easier commodity to spend using the new sorcerer rules, especially with the meta magics now costing a little bit less than they used to.
And we've seen all the other subclasses, and they very much use the sorcery points. While for this subclass, I'm pretty certain this is the only one that actually has sorcery points in it as a function, so I'm glad it's in this, and I love the fact that you can see what happens with the result and actually the DM whenever you want. That's fun. Well, once a reaction, that's fun.
Well, the DM is going to actually right now, because every subclass we've gone over has had the ability to spend sorcery points for something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's been more ingrained in their other like subclass leveled abilities, if that makes sense. Like this is, if I'm not mistaken, you can actually this dickhead. This is the only leveled ability for this subclass that actually uses sorcery points, and I quite like it. And it suits the subclass as well. Yes, tickety boo, well done.
You can use your wild magic and control it in some way. Even if it's a minor change, it's still spending a sorcery point to either apply the effect of Bless or Bane, which is good. It's lovely.
Well, I'm glad you phrased it like that, because at level 14, you do get controlled chaos. So, back in 2014, it was same name, don't worry. You gain a modicum of control over the surges of your wild magic. Little do they know we already have that with Bend Luck. Whenever you roll on the Wild Magic Surge table, you can roll twice and use either number. For 2024, it is exactly the same. Exactly the same.
It's exactly the same because it didn't need to change. It's a lovely little ability.
Yeah, especially with this new table as well. It's perfect. So you could have like, oh, I could cast Fireball, but actually I need some health, so I'm going to take the regain 5 hit points at the start of each of my turns. Thank you very much.
Exactly. It gives you 2 options to choose from, and since like nearly all of them are beneficial, it's going to be something you can use.
I've just seen something, by the way, and you know how we were talking about there's no bad ones. Right, I have just seen one where you turn into a potted plant until the start of your next turn. While you're a plant, you have the incapacitated condition and have vulnerability to all damage. If you drop to 0 hit points, your pot breaks and your form reverts. Well, that's fun. Does that mean, would you say that you're then just a person incapacitated, or that your wild shape has, similar to that other subclass, which I've completely forgotten? But do you think
you're just incapacitated and vulnerable while you're in a plant form?
But once your plant form ends, are you still doing death throws? Is I guess my question.
Yeah, because while you're in your plant form, you have your current HP, and when that drops to 0, your pot breaks and you revert to your form, and you're now considered unconscious.
I thought so too, but I thought it might be funny.
It is funny. You've just like this sorcerer with basically just controlling the magics of chaos itself and slinging around random effects, and then suddenly, even though they could end up potentially being the one that's impacting the battlefield the most, just suddenly turns into a fucking potted plant, and you just that's it.
Like I considering there's 25, I think there's maybe 5 that are at most inconvenient. The pot one is pretty bad. If you aggravate the big bad and then you turn into a pot, you're so fucked. But
you're probably right with 5. You're probably right with 5 effects on that table being negative.
Which considering the last one being 50, I'd say very few are actually massively helpful. No, the old ones, the 2014 ones.
Oh yeah.
There's very few where it's like, oh, thank God that happened. Like some of them are, a lot of the spells you just cast on it yourself, and it's like fog cloud. If you can't see through that, which I don't know if you can as the caster. Dan, what do they get as their capstone ability? What is their big moment? We have all this chaos.
Beforehand, it used to be a capstone ability called Spell Bombardment. So at 18th level, basically your spell's energy intensifies, as the harmful energy specifically. So when you roll damage for a spell and roll the highest number possible on any of the dice involved, you choose one of those dice and you roll it again and add the damage to the roll. And you can only use this feature once per turn. So it was a case of, say, like if you cast Fireball and you rolled a 6 on any of the d6s, you could choose another of the d6s, roll it again, and add the result to the already extended damage. So you got a little bit of extra damage. Nothing absolutely crazy. It was basically just a once per turn, maybe do a little bit more. But now we have a feature called Tamed Surge. So after you cast a sorcerer spell with a spell slot, so not cantrips, you can create an effect of your choice from the Wild Magic Surge table instead of rolling. You just choose one of the effects that would benefit you most in that moment and apply it. You can choose any effect on the table except the final row, and if the effect chosen involves a roll, you must make it. This is a once per long rest feature. So the last roll is basically just a 97 to 100, and you roll a d6. On a 1, regain 2d10 hit points. On a 2, one ally of your choice within 300 feet of you gains 2d10 hit points. On a 3, you regain your lowest expended spell slot. On a 4, one ally of your choice within 300 feet regains their lowest level expended spell slot. On a 5, you regain all of your expended sorcery points. And on a 6, all the effects of rows 17 to 20 affect you simultaneously. So that's the only one that you cannot choose with the new Tamed Surge feature. But still, having any control over your Wild Magic Surges is incredible, and being able to choose your result is incredible.
I like it. I do rate the concept where it's like, oh, and if you choose a certain one and you need to roll for it, you're gonna have to roll for it. Because I immediately thought of Fireball. Immediately. Like, I'd like to cast this. I'd also like to cast Fireball. God damn it, Theo. It was my immediate thought. Yeah. Some of these people here, they got something. But I like it. I think it's a bit of a shame that it's only once per long rest, but it is very overpowered. And it makes far more sense with the actual subclass instead of the, what was it called, the spell bombardment. doesn't make much sense for the subclass considering what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I like it.
Controlled
I like
chaos
it.
in the old edition of the subclass was more of a capstone than the capstone was.
Yeah, oh no, it 100% was, and you still get it level 14. It definitely makes me want to try it out, you know? It's a bit like... fucking... I want to give it a shot.
I can really see you lean into the whole... You can go a couple of ways with the subclass, but the one that's immediately ticking out to me as kind of like a roleplay character that you can possibly play is kind of like a gambler or like a charlatan of some description, that basically they just kind of rely on gambles with magic to kind of get them out of situations, but they might inherently be, say, like addicted to games of chance or something like that, and that when they awaken to their abilities, that only heighten that to the nth degree.
If what you're saying to me is that, now granted, I understand this isn't his actual superpower. What I'm hearing is that if you choose Wild Magic Sorcery subclass, you could choose to be Gambit from the X-Men.
No.
He likes to gamble. Well, you're not throwing cards. You're not throwing cards. You can put on the accent and still be a prick. It's slightly different functionally, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to make it fun here, Dan. All right?
Trying to make it fun. What it might be closer to is, I can't remember his name, but he's actually a Marvel character that has the ability to manipulate chance.
Oh, you bastard.
Is it like not Lucky Man?
This isn't going to be your one who's in Deadpool, is it? Like Domino?
No, she's just generally lucky, but this character, I think he literally just has the ability to manipulate chance and probability, so that something works out in his favor, whereas Domino, it's just a world-shattering ability that happens the whole time. She doesn't necessarily have control over it. Things just work out in her favor.
Well, now I'm in a whole new area. You're looking for a
because there was a show that came out for it on Sky.
I think I know what you're talking about as well, which is even more irritating. Yeah, no, never mind her. I'm looking for this person, and I fuck you not, Dan. There is a Marvel character, a Marvel hero, who I am shocked no one has made, and her literal her thing is, her name is Shamrock. She's an Irish vigilante. How has this never come up?
It's funny.
How has probability manipulation, luck of the Irish. I'm just saying, I'd watch it. I'd watch the first episode. I'd watch the first season.
It's Lucky Man. That's it. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Oh, you're kidding me. His name is just Lucky Man?
Stan Lee's Lucky Man is a British superhero crime drama television series created by Stan Lee and Neil Biswas, I think. The series was produced by Carnival Films and Power Entertainment for Sky One, which followed the story of Murder Squad detective Harry Clayton, who is granted the power to control luck.
Good lord. My God.
I thought I was going crazy there for a little bit. Thank God that
I'm not going to lie to you. It sounds awful. It sounds awful. And there's 2 seasons of it. Jesus Christ.
But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I really like Wild Magic now. I did like it before.
Truly back to it, I'd watch at least 3 seasons of Shamrock. So if anyone from Marvel, any of the Russo brothers are hearing, I want this out. I don't know who I want you to cast, but I just want it. I want to see what you're going to do to Shamrock. Are they going to be based in America, or are you going to do it on like the streets of Limerick? Hopping around. Not as much gun violence though, so probably should be in New York. Is that insensitive? Is that too far? Is that too far? I felt like it might be. I feel like it might be. It's not meant to be.
It's okay. We'll let the people decide.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
But enough about that.
So what would you rate the Wild Magic Sorcerer out of 10?
Well, is this so right? For me, 2014 is trash. I'm giving that a 5, maybe a 4. That's very easy. But 2024, it does its chaos very organizedly, or blah, blah, blah.
Organically.
Yeah, organically. Well, no, it's not necessarily organic. It's in an organized fashion, which I like. However, I'm massive into optimizing. So I'm going to give it like a 7. However, I would totally understand if someone gave this a 9. I'd get it.
Fair.
But I think Fine Lancer is 7 out of 10.
Fair. I think I'd be leaning into more of an 8. It's quite good. The old version of the Wild Magic Sorcerer was far too reliant on luck to be in any way useful. In some descriptions, the most consistent ability you had to be able to manipulate how things went was their 6th level feature, Bend Luck, but it was still quite an expensive feature for just the D4. Whereas with the new changes to Bend Luck, their new Capstone ability, putting all of the power in the player's hands, and the changes to the Wild Magic Surge table, it makes the character or the person who's playing this a lot less detrimental to the party. It puts all of the control in them, with a little bit of flair for the dramatics still involved in their kind of slot machine-esque, shall we say, abilities. So I'd say it's an 8 for the sheer fact that it's fun. I don't want to rate it higher just because of the chance element of the class, which seems weird considering we're playing a game where we roll dice and luck decides the outcome. But it's...
there's a limit.
There's a limit. But an 8, I think, is a fairly solid and fair rating for Wild Magic Sorcery. It seems like it'd be really fun. And honestly, having a BBEG that just kind of goes with the flow and lets the chaos of their own magic dictate their moves would be a really fun concept to play around for me.
Yeah, I get that. I think I'd only interject if you were like, oh, this is a 6. I'd be like, no, it's not. You know what I mean? I think 7 is like the lowest it can be, unlike the 2014 version. But I do think, dear listeners, that brings us to the end of another session where the dice are hard, the jokes are harder, and our standards are at an all-time low. If you enjoyed this chaos, be sure to follow and subscribe. If not, at least we finished, even if you didn't. Goodbye.
Goodbye.